The sun was sinking low over the dusty highway, painting the sky with streaks of gold and crimson when 17-year-old Lucas stepped out of the old bus that had carried him to the edge of the town he'd only ever heard about in his mother's broken whispers. The place was called Ridge Hollow, a name that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to speak it out loud. The air smelled like oil, leather, and something darker. Something unspoken. He clutched the faded photograph in his hand. Its edges worn and creased from years of being his only proof that somewhere out here, a man who once rode with a notorious biker gang knew the truth about who he really was. The photo showed a tall man in a leather vest, standing with a gang of bikers, their faces partly hidden behind sunglasses and bandanas. At the bottom, in his mother's shaky handwriting, were 4 words, "He's one of them." His mother had died 3 months ago, leaving him with only those words and a promise whispered through weak breaths. Lucas. Find him, find your father. So here he was, a lost boy standing at the mouth of a storm, staring at a bar with flickering neon lights and rows of black motorcycles gleaming like beasts in the fading sun. Inside was the gang known as the Iron Serpents, a name that was both feared and respected in these parts. Everyone said they owned this town. Lucas didn't care about fear anymore. He pushed the door open, the hinges groaning like they, too, were warning him to turn back. The room went quiet the moment he stepped in. A dozen leather-clad bikers turned their heads slowly, their tattoos snaking up their necks like living things. At the center sat a man with a gray beard and piercing eyes, a leader, no doubt. His name, Lucas would later learn, was Razor. The air felt thick, like walking through smoke. Lucas's heart pounded, but his voice was steady when he said, "I'm looking for the man who was with this gang 18 years ago. I want to know who my father is." A low chuckle rose from the corner. "Kid," one of the bikers said, leaning back in his chair. "You got a death wish or are you just stupid?" Another spat his drink onto the floor. Razor's eyes narrowed as he motioned for silence. He leaned forward, his heavy rings clinking on the wooden table. "Show me the picture," he said, his voice deep and slow, like thunder before a storm. Lucas walked forward, ignoring the hands tightening on beer bottles, the boots shifting like wolves circling their prey. He laid the photo on the table. Razor's hand hovered over it for a long moment before his expression shifted, just slightly. A flicker of something dangerous crossed his face. "This boy ain't lying," Razor finally said. Murmurs rippled through the gang. "He looks just like him." "Like who?" Lucas demanded, his voice shaking now, anger pushing through his fear. Razor stood up, towering over him like a wall of leather and scars. "The man you're looking for isn't someone you want to find." Lucas clenched his fists. "He's my father. I have a right to know." The bar erupted in laughter. Cruel and sharp, but Razor didn't laugh. Instead, he grabbed Lucas by the collar and pulled him close. "Your father was the most dangerous man to ever wear our colors. He betrayed us." Lucas's breath caught. Betrayed. Razor shoved him back, not to hurt him, but like someone testing the strength of a thing before deciding what to do with it. "Your old man disappeared after a war, when he started. We thought he was dead." A tall biker, with a snake tattoo on his jaw, slammed his fist on the table. "He should have been dead." Razor raised a hand, silencing him. "Your father's name was Hawk. And if you're his boy, then trouble just rolled back into town." Lucas's mind spun. Hawk. A name. A real name. For years he'd been nothing but a question mark, a shadow of someone else's choices. Now the shadow had a shape. "Where is he?" Lucas asked. Razor shook his head slowly. "No one knows. He vanished after the Blood Night. But if word gets out that his son is here..." He looked around the room, and every face carried a storm. "Then old enemies." will come crawling out of there. Graves. Lucas felt the weight of every eye in that room pressing down on him. He was no longer just a stranger. He was a spark near dry gasoline. But he didn't care. "I'll find him," he said. "Even if it kills me." Razor stepped closer, his expression unreadable. "It just might, boy." That night, as the moon rose like a pale witness, Lucas walked the dirt road out of town. He didn't see the black bikes that followed in the distance, their headlights off. The iron serpents weren't about to let a ghost son walk around freely. Hawk's name was tied to secrets the gang had buried long ago, secrets that could burn everything to the ground. Lucas found an old trailer on the outskirts, a place his mother had once mentioned. It smelled of rust and time. But inside was something unexpected, a box beneath the floorboards with Hawk's name scratched into the lid. Inside, there were faded patches, a silver serpent emblem, old maps, and a photograph of Hawk holding a baby. Him. His breath caught as he traced the image. But then he found something else, a letter. It was addressed to Lucas. His hands shook as he unfolded it. "Son, if you're reading this, it means I've stayed gone too long. They'll tell you I'm a monster. They'll tell you I'm dead. Don't believe everything. Some truths can only be earned, not told. Trust no one, not even the ones wearing the same colors I once did. If you want to find me, follow the road that ends where the river burns. Hawk." A noise outside made him freeze. Boots on gravel. The gang. Lucas tucked the letter into his jacket, his heart pounding. The door swung open and Razor stepped in, followed by the snake-tattooed men and two others. "You shouldn't have come here alone," Razor said. But his tone was different now, less threat, more warning. "Your father didn't just betray us, boy. He took something. Something people are still willing to kill for." Lucas stared at him. "What did he take?" Razor's jaw tightened. "The key to everything." The snake-tattooed biker spat on the floor. "We should end this right here. End the Hawk's bloodline." Razor shot him a glare sharp enough to cut steel. "We don't touch him. Not yet." He turned to Lucas. "But you're not leaving this town until we figure out why Hawk sent you back here." Lucas straightened his shoulders. "I didn't come because he sent me. I came because I need answers." Razor's mouth twitched like he respected the fire in the boy, even if it might burn him alive. Over the next few days, Ridge Hollow became a powder keg. Word spread fast: Hawk's son is back. Old allies and enemies started showing up. Black vans prowled the streets at night. Lucas began piecing together fragments of Hawk's past from whispers, old newspaper clippings, and half-truths from bikers who were too drunk to guard their tongues. Hawk hadn't just been a biker, he'd once led the Serpents. But something happened during a deal gone wrong, a betrayal that left bodies on the ground and a gang divided. The key he stole wasn't a key at all but something worth millions. Evidence that could burn powerful men who used the gang for darker deeds. Hawk vanished to keep his son safe. But now that Lucas was here, the storm Hawk had outrun was returning with teeth. One night, as thunder rumbled over the hollow, Lucas confronted Razor in the garage where the gang kept their bikes. "You know where he is," Lucas accused. Razor lit a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating the scars on his face. "I don't," he said slowly, "but I know where he'll be. Hawk doesn't run from storms. He rides into them." He pointed to the map on the wall. "The river burns. It's an old refinery. That's where this ends." The next morning, the Iron Serpents rode out with Lucas in tow, not as an ally, but not quite a prisoner either. Engines roared like war drums as they tore down the highway. But they weren't the only ones heading for the refinery. Black SUVs trailed behind. Men with guns. Enemies of Hawk. The road to the river burned was painted with smoke, wind, and fate. When they arrived, The refinery loomed like a steel skeleton against the crimson sky. Flames flickered in oil pools, giving truth to the name. And then, out of the shadows, a man emerged. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Gray. In his beard but fire in his eyes. Hawk. Lucas froze. He didn't need anyone to tell him that was his father. Hawk's gaze landed on him, and something raw flickered there. "You've grown," Hawk said, his voice rough like gravel. Lucas took a step forward. "You left me." Hawk's jaw clenched. "To keep you alive." But the reunion was short. Tires screeched. Enemies spilled out of vans, guns in hand. The iron serpents roared forward, the refinery erupting into chaos. Bullets cracked through the night. Engines roared. Fire burned higher. Lucas ducked behind a steel barrel, his heart hammering. Hawk fought like a man with nothing left to lose. Moving through the fire like he belonged to it. Razor barked orders, the serpents holding the line. It was war. Lucas grabbed a metal rod, fear melting into fury. He wasn't a lost boy anymore. He was Hawk's son. And this was his fight too. When one of the enemies lunged at him, Lucas swung with everything he had. The men went down. Lucas felt the world shift inside him. In the end, the refinery stood silent except for the crackle of flames. The enemies were gone. The serpents were battered but alive. Hawk stood over the chaos, breathing hard. Razor walked up to him. "You've got a lot to answer for." Hawk nodded. "I know." He turned to Lucas, his eyes softer now. "I wanted to tell you everything. But you were safer not knowing." Lucas stared back, his chest tight. "I came here because I was tired of not knowing who I am." Hawk placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're not me, son. You're better. But if you want the truth, I'll give it to you." That night, as dawn began to break, the iron serpents gathered. The old war was over, or at least paused. Lucas wasn't just a lost boy anymore, he was the son of the most feared and respected men they'd ever known. A new story was beginning, written in smoke, blood, and truth. And as the sun rose over Ridge Hollow, Lucas knew one thing for certain: secrets can break you. But they can also build you into something unshakable.